And now we can hold it down and you've got more power. And there we go. So I got this suggestion in my Discord from Nami. Hello, can you do a charging power punch? The same button that I hit normal punches, if I hold the button, he starts doing a charge animation, and when he finishes the animation, he can do the charging punch that is more powerful and different punch animation. Thanks. Sure, why not? Let's give it a go. So I got this guy. I got this little sprite guy that I made in the last tutorial, and now I've got just a block which he's gonna punch. First thing we're gonna need to do is create a punching animation. I'm gonna do that off screen, and we're gonna skip forward to when I've got it. Okay, welcome back. So I've got a punch animation, which is very crude. It's just 3 frames. And if I play it, it looks kind of like this, which is, you know, not the best, but it's not an art tutorial. It's a tutorial on punching and charging. I've got a charge animation, which is basically just 2 frames where it is looping, and he's just kind of like shaking his fist, charging up, however you want to call it. So what's going to happen is when we're holding the button down, we're going to play the charging animation, which is these 2, and then when we release the button, we're going to hit the punch. If we just tap the button, we're going to play the punch. If that makes sense, great, follow along, you're with me, let's continue. Okay, let's go to the event sheet, add an event, and we're going to say keyboard, we're going to say on keyboard pressed, and we're going to use the space bar for ease. We're going to say on keyboard press space bar. We are going to go and create that punch animation. Now, to make this work, we're going to need to give this little guy some states. So we're going to add an instance variable, going to create that variable, we're going to call it state, and this is going to be a string. And now, depending on what state this guy's in, is going to determine what he's doing. So we're going to say on keyboard press space. We're going to go and say player. We're going to set the value of that state to punch, because we wanted to punch when we press space. We're going to add another event, and we're going to check states. We're going to go to the player, and we're going to say compare instance variable string. We're going to say if that string is equal to punch, which is what we just created, then what we want to happen is the player is going to go ahead and play the animation punch. Now, when he's finished punching, player on finished, and we're going to say on finished punch. So when he finishes punching, we're going to go ahead and set the state back to idle. And his idle animation, which if we copy and paste out this and say if the state is equal to idle, we're going to go ahead and change the animation to animation 1, which I haven't renamed yet, but animation 1 is the idle animation, and at the moment it's just 1 frame. But what we'll do is we'll duplicate it, and we'll just give him a bit of a head bob, just so you can see that it's working. Let's loop it at 5, so his eyes are going to go up and down. In fact, let's just move one hand up, one hand down, and there we go. Now he's kind of, well, he's just there idling. So when I play it, he's going to idle, I'm going to hit space, he's going to punch, and then he's going to go back to idle. I can punch as many times as I want, and it's not going to do anything. So let's go back to the event sheet, and we're going to now say if spacebar is down, keyboard is key down, and we're going to say space. Now this is going to create a problem for us straight off the bat, because when we press spacebar, the spacebar is down. So we're going to create a bit of a conflict in regards to these 2 actions or events that we're trying to program in. But if we say if key is down, let's just show you, and we're going to go state. I'm going to set state to charge, if I can spell. And then we're going to say if state equals charge, set the animation to charge, and you're going to see that it doesn't work because charge is a loop. Okay, so we're holding it down, and now we let go, and it's going to continue to loop on in that charge, because we don't ever get to the point where charge animation finishes to then go to punch. So what we're going to need to do is add an event and say keyboard, and we're going to have to say on key released, and that key is going to be spacebar. When key is released, we're going to go ahead and set the state back to punch, because remember, we're controlling all of these keyboard actions with states, and those states are going to determine what animations are going to play. If I go ahead and play it, I can punch. If I hold it down, I can charge, I can let go, and I can punch. So we've got the basics working. What we need to do now is determine how much power we're going to give the punch based on whether we tap it or whether we hold it down and charge. And also I don't like the fact that the idle animation is so close to the charge animation. So I'm going to go ahead and change that. He's just kind of tapping his chest. Punch, charge it up, and punch. Good. Okay, now we need a charging meter. So let's go ahead and double click, and we're going to go ahead and add a tile background. Let's make this one green for power. Doesn't matter if you resize it, we can kind of resize it this way. Most important thing with this one is to make sure that the origin point, which is that little dot in the top left hand corner, is on the left side. You can put it to the top left, you can put it to the left, it doesn't really matter as long as it's on the left hand side, because this is going to be our charging meter. I'm going to call it charger. We're going to need an instance variable, a global variable, sorry, to control that. Charge level. The moment is going to be 1 because 1 is going to be the minimum amount of charge that we can get on this bar. Now I'm going to add an event and I'm going to say charger, and I'm going to say, in fact, I'm going to go back to system, I'm going to say every tick, and I'm going to say charger, and we're going to set the width of that bar to our new global variable charge level. Now if I play the game, it's going to be really small because we've only set it to 1. And it doesn't do anything in regards to holding space. So I'm going to say if spacebar is down, add a sub event, and I'm going to say system every tick, and I'm going to say system, I'm going to say add to charge level 0.1. So now when I hold down the spacebar, it starts to charge up. Perfect. When I release the spacebar, I want to set the charge back to 0 or back to 1. So I'm going to go ahead and set value of charge level back to 1. So now I've got charging up and release, punch. Now we need to assign some power to the punch. We're going to do that with variables. We're going to add another global variable, and we're going to call this one punch power. Not all in capitals, but punch power. It's going to be a number. We can start the number at 0. Now we're going to need to determine how hard we're hitting this block, and I think we're going to do that by moving the block to the right. So I'm going to go ahead and give the block, I'm going to give it the platform behavior. You could probably give it physics. I just want to give it some behavior that's going to allow it to move. Let's set the max speed to 100, and it's not going to jump. But I'm just going to use the vectors, the X vectors that are within the platform behavior. And there's probably a few different ways that you can kind of do this. What have I called that? A spike? It's not a spike, it's a block. That's not how you spell block. Block. And what I'm going to need to do now is create another sprite, which is going to be a hitbox, which is going to determine whether we punch the sprite or not. So let's go ahead and go sprite, and let's make this one 8 by 8. And I'm going to color this one in bright yellow. And this is a hitbox. Now I'm going to need to add an image point, because at the moment the one's in the middle. This image point is going to be where the hitbox will spawn, and it's going to be at the end of the punch animation, or the middle part of the punch animation. So we're going to right click on origin, we're going to go apply, add a new image point 1. With it selected, I'm going to go ahead and touch the top part of the fist there, and I'm going to put it in exactly the same place, even though it's not where the fist is. That's important to make sure that's in this. In fact, that's not what I wanted, because that's the original image point. We need to put that one back. That has to be in the same place, otherwise the image is going to bounce around. So let's go ahead and right click the image point, apply to whole animation, and now you can see that it stays there in the right hand side there. It doesn't matter that it's not over the sprite, it just has to be in that position. So now we're going to say event sheet, add event, and we're going to go to the player, and we're going to say is playing. So we're going to check to see if he's punching. So if he's playing that punch animation, what we're going to do is we're going to go system, and we're going to trigger once, and we're going to say player, And we're going to spawn another object, and that object is going to be the hitbox. We're going to spawn it on, it doesn't really matter what layer, background layer is fine, and image point number 1. Now, if we go ahead and push spacebar, you can see that we're spawning that in, it's staying there, it's not disappearing. So what we need to do is go to the event sheet and add another event and say hitbox, and we're going to say on created. We're going to say system, and we're going to wait 0.1 second, and then we're going to destroy it so it doesn't hang around. And we're going to say destroy. So now if we're running around hitting, we are moving the box there because I've got default controls on it. And also I don't have controls for the player, so let's go ahead and give him the default controls. So now if I'm moving the player around and hitting, you can see that the hitbox is spawning in the right place. But you can see that if the player is moving quickly, the box isn't quite where it needs to be because it's spawning in immediately, but the player is faster than the hitbox. So what we're going to have to do is add a behavior to the hitbox called pin. So immediately when it's created, we pin it to the player's image point. So we're going to say on created, say hitbox, pin to image point. The object is going to be the player, the image point is going to be number 1, it's not going to be on an angle. And then we're going to wait 1 second and destroy. So now, whenever we spawn it, it's going to be right in front of us. You'll notice if I spam the spacebar, it doesn't allow the animation to play because it's constantly trying to reset. So we're going to need to create a variable that tracks whether or not he's actually punching, almost like a cooldown for a gun, to stop you being able to spam it, because we don't want that punch hitbox to apply or to spawn if the animation isn't playing, because it's just going to look all weird. So we're going to say on spacebar pressed, and we're going to create a sub event, and we're going to check to see if the state of the player is actually punch. So we're going to say compare instance variable, and we're going to say state, and we're going to say state, and we're going to say punch. I'm going to leave it at equal, but I'm going to push I on the keyboard to invert it. So I'm going to say, when we press space, if we're not currently punching, then let's go ahead and set us to punch, because otherwise I don't want to be punching. In fact, that's not working so well. So let's delete that. Let's also go ahead and put that on the is space down. And then every tick. So if not equal to punch, set state to charge, and then set every tick to charge. There we go. Now I can spam it, but he's only going to punch it when he's able to. If I hold it, you can see that he charges up, and then when he releases it, he punches. In fact, what I think I might do, I might add in this as well. If it's not equal to punch or charge. So you can see what I've got going on here is if I push the space to hold it down, so I don't want to punch, I just want to charge. If I hold it, he does that initial punch first. And that's not what we want. We want him to just go straight into a charge if it's down. So what I need is a slight delay on that punch animation. So when I say on space pressed, if state does not equal punch, I'm going to have to go in and say system wait 0.1 second and then go into punch. And then I think what I'll do is add in another condition that says if we press space and we're not equal to punch or charge, then go to punch. And what that will do, that 0.1 second buffer will immediately go into charge if I'm holding down. And it doesn't seem to be working. Let's take that out. I think we just need to get rid of this if not equal to punch condition, because we want charge to be the predominant. There we go. The predominant, that's it. We want charge to be the predominant animation that it goes to first. There we go. So I can tap space to punch. I can hold it, it goes straight into charge, and I can let go for another punch. That's much better. That's how we're going to do it. So this is the code that I have so far. It's all working very, very well. What we need to now do is say that if the hitbox collides with the block here, then we take all the power that we've charged up and we put it into an X vector. So we're going to say add an event, and we're going to say hitbox, and we're going to say on collision with another object, I'm going to say block. And then we're going to say block. And we are going to say set X vector, and the X vector is going to be the punch power. But what you're going to find is that punch power is not going to be very strong. It's probably going to be in the low numbers. So we're not really going to see anything in the way of a movement. It's hardly any power whatsoever. So we're going to need to say, well, in fact, if I just take out punch power and I put in 400, now you're going to hopefully see the block fly across, there you go, fly across the screen every time we hit it. So we're going to have to go in and say 400, and we're going to go in and say 100, and we're going to multiply that by the punch power. So that way the punch power is going to have an effect on the speed or the distance that the block travels. So if I just go in and hold it for a little bit, well, that doesn't seem to be working. It's because the hitbox will have already been destroyed. The charge level will have already been set back to 1, which means that the punch power is not having any effect whatsoever. So on space release, we're going to set the punch back to 1, but we're not going to set the charge level back until the hitbox has been destroyed. And it's still not working. If we just set the X vector 500, then we've got no issues. If it hits it, we can move the block as we punch it. Okay, we're going to set a new global variable to transfer the charge level to charged. So we're going to say add global variable, and this will almost be like a container that holds that charge amount. So we're going to charge it up, and then we're going to transfer that when we release spacebar. We're going to go ahead and go system. We're going to set the value of charged to punch power. So whatever the punch power is, in fact, we're going to set it to punch power multiplied by 25. So if we get the punch power up to 5, in fact, let's go ahead and let's say 100, just to get it going. We're going to change, as soon as we've let go of the spacebar, whatever that charge number is, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever it might be, we're going to transfer that multiplied by 100 to charge. So charge to then show 2, 3, 400, and then we're going to apply charged to the vector here. Once the hitbox has, I think, been released again, we're probably going to have to set that charge back, otherwise we're going to be accumulating and it's still not working. Okay, let's just try getting rid of reduce the charge level back to 1 and see if that makes a difference. So let's charge it up. Let go, no. So we've got the block taking the punch power damage. We're going to remove that action that says reduce the punch power back to 1. And what I want to do, just so I can see what's going on here, is add in text. I'm going to put that on the screen, and I'm going to assign the text every tick to tell me what the punch power is. To set text to punch power. Just want to be able to see visually. See, it's not going. Why is that not going up? So the punch power is not. Every tick set text to punch power. If space is down, set to charge. if charging, it's animation of charge. Oh, there we go, every tick, add 0.1. If space is down, maybe just add 0.1 to charge level. Nope. Add 1. Oh, of course, charge level. Not punch power. Set text to charge level. There we go. Now we're adding it up. Okay, so we can go back to 0.1 on here. And now we're charging up. Good. And now we need to release space on space released. Set state to punch, which is going to create that hitbox on collision with block. We can just set it to charge level. Why do I have punch power in there? I don't need punch power in there. I can just go back here and I can, well, there we go, we're moving it slightly. So we need to multiply that by 100. Charge level multiplied by 100 to give us a bit of oomph. Don't hit the block. There we go. If I charge up a bit more, block it, but it's not resetting. So let's go ahead and add that reset in now. On collision with block, we're going to go ahead and set charge level system, set value of charge level back to 1. And I think that should be good. And we don't actually need the punch power to begin with. Well, that would be helpful if I hit the block. There we go, back to 1. So let's go ahead and charge it up pretty high. Say to 30. We can probably increase the charge to 0.5. Gets it up a little bit faster and then hits the block. But to save yourself having a massive charge bar, I think I would prefer it at 0.1, but then multiply the charge level by 500. And then we're going to really start to knock this thing around. There you go. Even just tapping it now knocks it a little bit, but charging it up. Let's give it a good charge. It's just giving it the tiny little beans. It's enabled. Oh, it's because the max speed is 100. That's probably what it is. It's only doing it to the max speed. So let's take the max speed up to 10,000. How stupid. Of course, the platform behavior was disabling me. There we go. Of course, how stupid. What an easy, stupid thing that I didn't think of. So let's set it to whatever you want the max speed to be. And now we can hold it down and you've got more power. And there we go. And we got there in the end, guys. Apologies for the bugs along the way, but you know me, I don't like to edit out all the bugs sometimes because I know you guys like to watch me go through the agony of bug fixing and problem solving. So there we go. That's how we make a charging punch using the same button, in this case spacebar. If you enjoyed the video, leave a thumbs up, leave a comment, tell me how I could have done it better, because I'm sure there's probably a better way. And as always, I'll see you in the next video. And as always, a extra special thank you and a shout out to my wonderful Patreon supporters: Foozle CC, Retro Galaxy, Olivia Bernier, Amari Lewis, Enmark Games, Jess Matt, Tor, Alex Anderson, Rob, Jared Demont, Martin K, Julian Cruz, Raul San Gonzalo, 8-Bit Gamer, Davey Ragnarok, John Allegrezza, and Joey. Thanks for supporting the game dev journey, and if you want to find out about what's on offer on the Patreon, there's a link in the description.